Welcome to No Stoplights with Ken Ard. I'm Ken Ard. Donald Trump takes office January 20th. A lot of folks are excited about Trump taking office, but I'm not sure they're excited about his exact tax policy or his exact immigration policy or where he stands on abortion or gay marriage or some of the other social issues that America struggles with. There's a belief in some of the more politically informed circles that Trump lacks an ideological core. And a lot of people who have historically observed politics and paid close attention to politics wonder why there's such an attraction to Trump. In other words, the guy is bombastic. He's narcissistic. He lacks a political core. Why are so many conservative Republicans attracted to Donald Trump? Very valid question, very interesting and perplexing question. My argument is that it's not about ideology. It's not about the traditional historical debate Republicans have with Democrats. It really goes back to Thomas Jefferson and Alexander Hamilton. That would have been a debate about the fundamental role of government. Jefferson wanted a limited government. Hamilton wanted a more expansive role for government. He wanted government to kind of central plan some of the realities of the nation that was but an infant. As we have progressed over the past 35 or 40 years, nearly 250 years, that debate has raged on, and there's been a kind of an ebb and flow at times. The conservatives get the best of the liberals, and I'm talking about Jeffersonian and Hamiltonians. At other times, the government takes on a more expansive role. One of our sponsors is MPD Electric Co-op. If you go back and research the Rural Electrification Act, it's really a result of the New Deal, FDR's New Deal. That would have been a very expansive role of government. That's when government was required to respond to, I guess, the post-Depression era in America. The economy was struggling. People were in dire straits. That would have been a kind of a celebration of Hamiltonian. Here comes the government. I didn't say government did everything bad or got everything wrong. I'm from the country. I'm a rural South Carolinian. I support rural electrification. So, but once again, that has been the battle that has historically dominated political discourse in the last 240 some odd years of American history. And along comes somebody that I don't know, that kind of embraces the role of a change agent. And out of that comes a win in 2016 unexpectedly, a very close loss in 2020, and by God, he runs again in 2024 and wins by a larger margin than he won in 16. And a lot of folks, observants of politics, are going like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, how in the world is the shelf life of Donald Trump as expansive as it is when he lacks a political core, when he doesn't really ascribe to a certain ideology? He didn't read the National Review growing up. I doubt he read much of what William Buckley had to write. And conservatives historically have celebrated that notion. Ronald Reagan, who was behind me, was a conservative. The Reagan Revolution was predicated largely on, a resistance to government, a apprehension about whether government has your best interests at heart or not. So when you really try to evaluate the Trump phenomenon and why he has basically hijacked and commandeered the Republican Party, I think you look toward some of the ambiguity in the debate. And by that, I mean, it's not about the marginal tax rate. It's not about whether or not a woman should be allowed to have an abortion. It's not about whether a man should be allowed to marry a man or a woman. I'm sure Trump has some pretty strong opinions on some of that. I don't know that he's let much of that be known, but a lot of the majority of reason that Donald Trump has become a dominant political force in America is bred in populism. I mean, it lacks a coherent governing philosophy, but it is very much a strong and powerful energy within the body politic. There's a mathematical physicist named Eric Weinstein that articulates this in a much more academic way than I ever could. But Weinstein argues that the Trump phenomenon is largely based on the fact that the status quo, the elites, the establishment, the ruling class, whatever you'd like to describe them as, they built these load-bearing walls, and these load-bearing walls kind of held the world order together. And out of that came, I don't know, policies and advantages for some of the moneyed interest, some of those who lobby the government. In other words, these load-bearing walls, and I'm talking about post-Second World War II, the load-bearing walls were put in place to make sure safety and security were primary. He argues that Trump is unacceptable to the power base, the power structure of Washington, but he is perfectly acceptable to the voting public. In other words, the load-bearing walls that are in place to make, to make the system work as they believe it needs to work is not trusted by the general public. The general public have a feeling about these load-bearing walls, that they're not to be trusted, that they're not where they should be, that they're not in the best interest of the American people. Trump comes along and basically says, drain the swamp, the game is rigged. Eric Weinstein said, in essence, what he's saying is, why are these load-bearing walls here? Who put these load-bearing walls here? Who advantages themselves as a result of the load-bearing walls here? It's not a policy. It's a high level of suspicion that the American people have of their federal government, and Trump is a manifestation of that suspicion. I don't know that he's an answer. I don't know that long-term he solves the problems of America insiderism, if we can call it that. But it's indisputable. It's indisputable that there has been a game played in Washington that has largely advantaged those who invest in the body politic, and what I'll call the outsiders, the hayseeds, in flyover country, they have been at the mercy of these load-bearing walls. And it works until it doesn't work any longer. And all of a sudden, the American public rebel against these load-bearing walls. They elect the narcissistic, bombastic Queens real estate developer named Donald Trump. And a lot of the insiders are still scratching their head as to why this guy creates such enthusiasm and excitement when he lacks, an ideological North Star, when you really don't know where he stands on foreign policy, on domestic policy. I think we know where he stands on immigration, trade, and China. I mean, he's made that very clear. But on some of the other issues that Washington deals with, Donald Trump has been a very mixed bag. But I don't believe it's as much about Trump as it is the American public being frustrated and losing faith in these load-bearing walls. And I think Donald Trump is the beginning. I don't think Donald Trump is a blip on the radar. I don't think after Trump leaves office in 2028, the American people all of a sudden say, that was fun. Let's go back to trusting the load-bearing walls. I think the American people are highly suspicious of these load-bearing walls and will remain highly suspicious of the load-bearing walls, whether Donald Trump is the president or not.